everyone. Welcome to the Glad You're Here podcast. I'm your host, Craig Allen Cooper, and I'm so glad you're here. My aim is to offer you encouragement, comfort, and strength through words of grace and mercy. Let's talk about the storms of life. Mark 6:50 and 51 says this, "But immediately he spoke to them and said, 'Take heart, it is I, do not be afraid.' And he got into the boat with them, and the wind ceased, and they were utterly astounded." This is an account of Jesus calming a storm. Here, Jesus made his disciples get into a boat and go before him to the other side while he dismissed a huge crowd. And he went up to the mountain to pray. You can read about that in Mark 6:45. We know from the rest of the passage that a storm is coming, even when Jesus dismisses the crowd and sends his disciples into the boat. So Jesus, in essence, is sending his disciples into a storm. And yet, we see that this is a loving act in light of how he reveals himself to them in glory. Sometimes Jesus leads us into storms. He sends us into the raging tempest for reasons that we can't fully understand, but it's then that he draws near to reveal himself to us in power. Listen, Jesus is sovereign over every storm. That means he's in control. He sent his disciples into the storm, verse 45 here, and then he saw his disciples making headway painfully with the wind against them. That's in verse 48. He watched over them during the fourth watch of the night. Again, that's in verse 48. And then wonderfully, he came to them. And when he came to them, he came walking on the water, walking on the sea. Jesus watching does not mean that no trouble will come our way. Jesus sending does not mean that no trouble will come our way. But it does mean that no trouble will come to us that's outside of his control and his perfect design. You can read Psalm 91 and it talks about how in control God is over the arrow that flies by day, or the pestilence that stalks in the darkness, or the plague that destroys at noonday. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near to you. You'll only watch and see if you made the Lord your trust. He's in control of everything. A stray bullet or an arrow or all of that. The presence of a storm does not mean the absence of God. Jesus said, "In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world." This says that he came to them in the fourth watch of the night. Now, the fourth watch of the night it's somewhere between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. That's a time when undoubtedly the disciples would have been utterly exhausted and completely depleted. Sometimes God delays his deliverance to drive us in dependence back to him and to display his glory in more profound ways. When we've got nothing left, he comes. He's often the God of the fourth watch of the night. But Jesus' coming is always calming. The turmoil within our souls is put to rest in the presence of the Almighty. He says, "Take heart, it is I, do not be afraid." Now, the "take heart, it is I," that's the Greek phrase that's equivalent to the same expression that God used to reveal himself to Moses. I am who I am. It is I. So Jesus is saying, take heart, I am. Don't be afraid. If the Lord who rules over the raging of the sea is with us, and He's on our side, what do we have to fear? Jesus draws near to the storm-tossed and the washed out, and He comes to calm the storms in our lives and reveal to us that He is sovereign over all of them. And so if you're in a storm right now, my prayer for you is that the Lord would come to you, maybe in the fourth watch of your night, and calm the storm that's raging in your soul and reveal to you His glory and deliver you so that you give Him all the praise.
Thanks so much for checking out the Glad You're Here podcast with Craig Allen Cooper. We hope this time together has been encouraging and inspirational. If you'd like to know more about all that Craig has going on, be sure to connect with him on Instagram at Craig Allen Cooper and at craigallencooper.com. We look forward to having you back on the next episode. The Glad You're Here podcast is a production of One Country and Spent Casing Media.